Good morning. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Free Press Media Press Inc., an alternative parties books publisher, sponsors this podcast. I'm Andrew Bouchard.
Yes,
I can hear you well.
I can hear you now.
Excellent.
Okay, so it may have been my phone, so we'll use this phone. So
All right. We got it going. So, friends, welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Today we have Ann Armstrong of the Compassion Party, and she's going to tell us all about the exciting things she does with the Compassion Party.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. First of all, I'd like to say that running for office is the greatest way ever to get a message out. It gives you such a bully platform that anyone listening, if you have a cause that is dear to you, pick an office and run for it. It doesn't matter if you win or if you don't win. A couple of years later, everybody just remembers, hey, you're that lady that ran for governor. So in my case, I started running because I was very, very concerned about the sickening amount of corruption in our state. For example, the chairman of our finance committee on the House side, which is the plum assignment for raking in all the bribes, actually had charges against him for raping a woman who mysteriously died of a pulmonary embolism the day the indictment came out. And he, they call him the butcher to his face. I don't know what they call him behind his back, but this guy was in charge of our government. And
What's that?
His name is John Carnevale, Carnevale. And we ran him out of office, basically.
Okay.
John Carnevale. And it's kind of typical for Rhode Island politics because we were colonized by criminals. We were kind of a penal colony, sort of like Australia. That's what Providence Plantations actually means. We were a penal colony for England. And so that attitude of grab all you can and before the other criminals get it permeated our entire culture and especially our bar and our government. So and you can see it the most in basically cannabis policy. And that was my number one when I first started running. My number one issue was, why isn't everyone able to grow this stuff in their backyard and have as much of it as they need to be healthy and happy? What's going on? And I really think that is the motive force that has given the longevity to the Compassion Party, because everybody loves weed. Everybody wants to see it available without them having to pay money to criminals. And so I think that's really been the issue that's resonated the most with the voters. Now, we're lucky right now because we have here another Compassion Party candidate. He's at the ready if you want to ask him questions too. His name is Alan Gordon. He ran for Attorney General in 2018, and he actually won. If you believe President Trump and the things he said, President Trump, in one of his speeches, talked about a candidate in a very small state who was robbed of 40% of the vote he had gotten, and that was Alan Gordon. He won Attorney General here in Rhode Island in 2018, but we were the beta test state for the Dominion election cheating software that they rolled out in 2020 to make it look like Biden won. And so he's here too, and we've got a number of candidates. We're actually hoping to fill the whole slate with Compassion Party candidates this year, and we're especially recruiting 18-year-olds, because in Rhode Island you only have to be 18 to run for almost all the offices, including governor. So it's really the youth that are going to carry this. They're the ones paying so much. Anyway, I'm going to hand the phone to Alan if you have any questions for him too.
No, only if he has questions.
Yes, this is a good surprise, Alan. We like to hear multiple voices. One time we had the approval approval voting party, and the guy told me to have his vice president candidate interview. So this is great. So Ellen, kindly give us an introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch.
Sure. I'm not a lawyer. I have a law degree from the United Kingdom, from a fairly prestigious university, but I only practice ecclesiastical or church law here in the United States. I'm not a member of the bar. I think the whole system is so corrupt, can't be bothered with it. But I did run for Attorney General of the state in 2018. As Reverend Ann just told you, they did a sort of a test run demonstration of the cheating software and fake ballot backup that was used in the 2020 election. They demoed it in Rhode Island that year against these two, what they thought were goofy candidates that nobody cared for. And I believe that Ann Armstrong actually also won the gubernatorial election here as Compassion Party candidate. I was the sole opponent against the Democrat candidate for Attorney General, and they said he buried me about 80-20, 81-19, but I actually beat him. And Ann Armstrong was one of about 6 or 7 candidates on the ballot for governor, and the only woman other than the really incredibly unpopular female governor of the state. And the vote total that they claim she got was unbelievably low. Pundits can't believe it. I think she actually won that one as well. So it wasn't just me that they it's the people of Rhode Island they cheated out of an election result, not me. I wouldn't want to be Attorney General. I wouldn't for my own sake. It sounds like a miserable job. And likewise, Reverend Ann, in terms of being governor, she would have to stop being clergy for the time she was governor and take on that miserable job. You saw what they did to Jesse Ventura in Minnesota. It's not fun for an outsider politician. But we're pretty sure that there was a military intelligence sting in place when they demoed that software in 2018 and then shopped it out nationally for 2020. So I hope that we've helped haul down these crooks, and I'm going to hand you back to Reverend Ann now. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
What's really funny is that today is the 3-year anniversary of when they got so scared that we were doing so well in the polls that they actually came and arrested us, raided our farm during the election cycle. And we had, I don't know how much you know about us, but in addition to running for governor twice, I'm the head of the oldest continuously existing Christian congregation in the world. It's called the Healing Church, and we moved from the Middle East to here in Rhode Island gradually over the years. And our job for the Catholic churches of valid apostolic succession is to grow the cannabis that they've always used in their chrism oils as the active ingredient in the anointing of the sick and so on and so forth. And the state knew this. They were on good notice about it. And in 2016, they had dared to come and challenge us, and we won that case. And they dismissed the charges. And then right after they dismissed the charges, they realized, hey, we can't lawfully wiretap these people anymore. We can't keep tabs on them. So they came and arrested us, and it was outrageous. They came right into the church. They took what they said was 48 pounds of cannabis. And I know there was more than that. And I believe they were selling, the dirty cops themselves were selling it on the market because my grandson was offered some for sale, and he said, hey, that's that purple lemon that we grew. So there's a lot of things that go on when you stand up and run for office, but it gave us, once again, it gave us more impetus to be a platform for change because it let us file 3 great lawsuits. One is we went right to court and we said, habeas corpus Christi. Give us that which our church uses to confect the body of Christ. Give it back. And they were shocked because we put in all the evidence that we were bona fide, valid Catholic Church of Apostolic Succession. And yes, it really is our job to grow the cannabis for the church. And yes, the First Amendment really says that those laws cannot apply to a church. Get out of here with that nonsense. And so even though the judge was not at liberty to make a reasonable ruling, it got the message out through the bar, because when you mess with us, you're not just messing with us, you're messing with God Almighty. And then our dear Bishop Thomas Tobin here in Providence helped me out by inviting my 15-year-old son, then 15-year-old son, who's a violin prodigy and a genius and great at everything he does. But anyway, he invited him to play his violin at what the church calls the Chrism Mass, which is a mass they have right before Easter. And that's where the bishop puts the hash in the oil and mixes it up and gives it to all the priests. And then they take it to their home, parishes for baptisms, confirmations, Eucharist, when somebody gets sick and so on. So the bishop right there at that mass is literally manufacturing and distributing what they said was a controlled substance and arrested us for. So it let me and my colleagues.
The same precise mass of it, by the way, the same exact amount.
Right. He had the exact same amount. Right. You have to have 6 pounds of hash. Anyway, so we filed a lawsuit there asking for a restraining order so the police wouldn't go arrest the bishop. And I had standing because I said, I don't want my minor child traumatized. He's already been traumatized once when they saw he had to see his mother dragged away. Now he thinks he's safe in the Catholic Cathedral on Fenner Street in Providence. How, we want, and it freaked them out. They actually, because they went and stole the documents from the clerk's office and tried to replace what the judge had said with something else because the truth was inconvenient to their narrative. And they all got caught and they all got fired. I will say the new attorney general did fire those guys. He fired them. He did. So, and then the third one was during this shutdown, we sued in federal court to get to go in the State House and pray a rosary that we've done every year. And they did everything to cheat and lie and get out of it. And finally, the judge said, well, it's fair that you can only come in the State House by invitation. So I'm going to rule against you. So then I got 2 senators and a representative to give us an invitation. So we went in there anyway.
Prayed
our rosary anyway. So we won that one. So it was basically the trifecta of habeas corpus Christi, and then the Chrism Mass, and then the Hail Mary case. And so now everybody knows like what we're saying is true religion. And so at least in Rhode Island, the police will not arrest anybody anymore for non-commercial, personal cultivation and private sharing. They've de facto said, thank you very much, but we're not going to be involved in doing this anymore. It's wrong. And so getting back to running for office and having the bully pulpit, that started it.
It taught medical professionals about religious exemptions too, because for years they've been watching Anne defeat these devils in court and on the ground, and they sort of had already been thinking about and trained about religious exemptions. So when they got hit with this mandatory vaccination policy, they knew where to start, and they know it can work. It's a fundamental part of American culture and life.
Right. I mean, bodily integrity, what you choose to put in your body and what you choose to not put in your body. It's so our party is pro-life. We've always been 100% pro-life and pro-tree of life. And so, when we say my body, my choice, we say that your body is the part of that has your DNA, not and someone that might be inside you at the moment with their own DNA. So, it's good that the people have been able to take back that slogan for something valuable. Anyway, I've talked like 14 minutes without breathing. Do you have any questions?
Yes, sure. So what made you start the Compassion Party in the first place?
Oh, like I said, the politicians were so corrupt. And at the time, I had been growing cannabis for people that have cancer and watching them get completely better, people that were just given a couple weeks to live. And that started my political activism because I couldn't figure out why the laws were so crazy. And then I started looking into it, like I said, and realized that our politicians were, so corrupt. And even like that one John Carnival that I told you about that had raped a woman and then she mysteriously died. And so the attorney general, his buddy, had to drop the charges. If you look him up in Wikipedia, like, he raped her in front of her disabled child. And they didn't kick him out of the house until I started writing letters to everyone. And that made me realize you really can make a difference if you just don't shut up. And so even though they've locked me up twice to try and shut me up, it hasn't worked. I'm still here and I'm not going anywhere. This latest thing, I believe that this assault on what makes us human with the masks and these forced injections of God only knows what, I think this is kind of hopefully waking up the people that didn't realize the evil that had become resident among us. But that is, I went into to run for office basically because I saw that we had been infiltrated by truly evil people, and that if we didn't take back the machinery of our governance, we were going to lose it. You know, we need good people in those roles, not criminals. And right now, in my opinion, almost everyone in government is a criminal. So, you asked, I told you.
Sure. So besides the cannabis issue, what else is on the Compassion Party platform?
Okay, well, we have a way to fund all the so-called, this is really a major platform, thank you for asking. Regenerative funding is a way that we thought of that will pay for all the, what the church calls the corporal works of mercy and what the state calls social services, like housing the homeless and feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, healthcare. Regenerative funding takes out the profit and it creates independent cells of entrepreneurs who are funded by investors, and the independent cells of these entrepreneurs get paid by the investors to do their work and make things of value, create things of value, and then give those things through a charity to the poor. So say, for example, hospital care. We are right now working on starting hospice care that's free to the recipient, and the investors pay the workers that provide the care a just wage. And then the care, because hospitals and healthcare places right now are really greedy and charge immense amount of money, the value, the open market value of that care provided for free through our hospices is about 15 to 20 times the value paid to the workers. So the workers get paid, the nurses, the aides, the doctors all get paid just wages. And the investor gets about 180% return on his investment, realized as taxes he would have otherwise had to pay. So instead of donating to a charity and getting like a 37% write-off, he invests directly in paying the worker that carries out the charitable works, and then takes the credit with the IRS for that in-kind donation that has much greater value. It works for cannabis medicine. It works for all other kinds of medicine. It works for schools. It works for clothing. Restaurants could set aside one day a week and free food for the hungry and make more money doing that than they do selling meals. That's the beauty of this. The workers get paid more all along that chain. The investors get a decent, and it's paid for by lowering taxes on these investors. So it's a win-win all around. If anybody wants to look at it, I've published it on Facebook, Ann Armstrong for Governor, and also on the Healing Church. And I'll go put it up once. Facebook seems to be having an outage right now, but once it's over, I'll pin it to the top, because that is a major platform of the Compassion Party, is implementing this regenerative funding that doesn't need any changes to the law. It's self-starting, it's self-sustainable, it's completely voluntary, and it basically takes all the fat and profit out of providing social services and medical care and restores it to the grassroots level. It's incredibly efficient. I used to work at Raytheon as a engineering manager, and then they trained me as a Six Sigma expert, which is basically an efficiency expert. And this is perfect implementation of Six Sigma principles, regenerative funding. So that's one major thing. Another major platform of the Compassion Party is we are blessed in Rhode Island to have a Tesla free energy dome as our state house. The Rhode Island State House was built by one of Tesla's best friends, Stanford White, who at the time of his very suspicious death was working with Tesla on Wardenclyffe Tower, which is one of those free energy geomagnetic resonant domes. And the Rhode Island State House, you can look it up. It's the second largest freestanding marble dome in the world. It's a piezoelectric replication of Wardenclyffe Tower. So is St. Peter's at the Vatican. And these were built so that we wouldn't have to have fossil fuel or solar cells that take lithium from sensitive areas, or those rare earth metals, or windmills that kill birds. We have in Rhode Island a Tesla free energy dome, and one of our goals is to partner with Brown University right here in their Center for Intense Computational Research to figure out exactly what resonant frequencies have to be piped into it to get to start up. So those are, free energy using science and intelligence in the distribution of resources. And of course, we're completely against any mandates in healthcare. Although we don't think abortion is healthcare, we're pro-life, 100%. We do believe that if a man gets a woman pregnant and abandons her so that she's desperate enough to contemplate abortion, that he should maybe pay for that with, he should put up enough money for the care of that child for that child's whole life. And if not, maybe he shouldn't be able to go around reproducing. We are very strict on males. One moment, please. Do you remember we got paper towels? They're right there in the hallway. Okay, we raise poultry here, and we're starting an experiment with sprouting their grains so that we'll get better food out of them. So multitasking a bit, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
So one of our slogans is a pot plant in every pot and 6 chickens in every garage, because we believe in encouraging self-sufficiency in food, in medicine, and not relying on capitalists or the government to provide us with the things we need, because once you become dependent on other people for your sustenance, it's very easy to take that one more step and be made a slave. So we have been working with some of the agencies in the city to encourage urban farmsteading, growing in small areas as much dense nutrient value. And to that end, I'd like to say, I'm not sure who this podcast is going to reach, but if any of your listeners are interested in obtaining the world's greatest liquid fertilizer ever, we happen to have a company called Galilee Girls. Go to GalileeGirls.com, GalileeGirls.com. We have squid liquid fertilizer, organic and perfect for any agricultural endeavors, including cannabis, grapes, orchids, fruits, vegetables. Sorry for the plug. But if people go on the webpage, they can order it online and we'll ship it to them. Free shipping for a limited time only. That's how we fund our political endeavors, because we don't take money from anybody, because we don't want to be beholden. So we just work and earn money and pay for it ourselves. And that is another one of our platforms. Get the money out of politics and you'll actually get good people in who care about issues.
So you don't take donations at all then, huh?
No, we don't.
Oh my, I haven't seen a party do that. That is a unique position you have.
Well, I mean, social media is free right now, and we've had videos that have easily reached 1 million people. Like if you look up Fresh Air, the one I made in 2014, the first time I ran, that was CNN had it on, all the different news had it on. They're like, hey, look at this governor candidate smoking pot. It was like they freaked out from it. But I think that we taking money from other people makes those other people think you owe them something, and it also makes you feel like you're beholden to them. And so I would rather encourage someone that wants to give me a donation. I would rather encourage them to run for state representative or some other local office themselves and put the time into that, because this love of money is the root of all evil. We have an account that has $25 in it. We did a little bit of fundraising last time, but it was hilarious. We had a cookie sale, and I made cookies, and somebody started the rumor that they were pot cookies. And so, like, we had our fundraiser, and the police came, like, all these park police, and they were getting ready to arrest us because someone lied and said that there was pot in the cookies. They were just regular. So after that, we decided, it's better just to stay away from the money and just, walk door to door and talk to people in person. That's what Rhode Island is, a small enough state that you could do that. You can drive from the bottom corner to the top corner in 45 minutes. And there's only like a little over 1 million people here. It's probably like a small district in Texas. You guys are huge.
Yeah.
But you guys are free. Like, you don't have vaccine mandates there. You don't have mask mandates. Right? My son, when I was telling you about, that's the violin prodigy. He's also great at football. He's 6'5", and he put down his violin for a little while to walk on the football team in the 11th grade and made it to varsity, got a football scholarship to Assumption College, and then they wanted to mandate vaccines. He said, no, thank you, I'm not going. He walked away from it because he said he was just so surprised that a school that called itself Catholic would try and make you inject something that was tested on cells cloned from an aborted baby. The idea is just so horrifying, So, I mean, all we can do is set an example. My goal in politics as a mother who's raised 7 children is to work myself out of a job. Like, do you really feel like you need a governor? Do you really feel like you need a government telling you what to do? Or do you feel like as an adult, sovereign person, you can make those decisions for yourself in consultation with your community, maybe, and voluntarily choosing to submit to certain, restrictions for the mutual good? But where we've got tyranny of the mob and this sort of demonic autocratic government by fiat and executive order, this is just wrong. What's been going on in this country is dead wrong, and I hope and pray that enough people will stand up and try and stop it.
You think they will?
I hope so. I mean, do you think that Trump won the election? Are you allowed to say?
I'm not a fan of Trump. So if that's
whether you're a fan or not, do you actually believe that enough people voted for? I mean, even if he was all the things they said he was, even if he went around grabbing women by the pee-pee all day long, okay, does that mean it's okay to cheat and lie to get the other guy in? Like, if he were Hitler himself, would it be okay to cheat the election and subvert our election processes just because you don't like him?
You could say 2 wrongs don't make it right. So then
exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And so if it's true, which I believe, that Trump won the election by a lot, whether you like him or not is irrelevant. He won. And why did he win? Did more people like him than not like him? And why is that? I mean, not everybody's a Nazi woman hater like they accuse him of being, right? So I don't know. I mean, anyway, I don't like what's going on in this country now. I like paying $1.59 for gas. I don't like paying $3.20. What's gas a gallon there in Texas?
It's about 260.
All right. What was it last January before the inauguration?
I don't recall. I don't drive, so I don't pay too much attention to that. I can't recall exactly what it's.
I was paying $1.59 up here. Now it's $3.20 a gallon. Okay, it's doubled in how many months? 9 months. You know, and then I don't like that Trump pushed this vaccine. I don't like that he put Fauci in charge. I thought that Trump was a better judge of character than that. You from the get-go, 2 weeks to slow the spread. Now we're in this communist country where you have to shoot up. You don't even know what it is. There's, whatever happened to just say no to drugs? And then here they want to put masks on all the little school children who are the least susceptible to any problems from this. How do they learn language? How do they learn empathy when they can't see each other's faces? So, and then considering the fact that Islamic countries consider putting a mask on is a sign of submission to Islam. I mean, like, I don't want to do that. I'm not doing that because they say if you make a sign of submission to Islam and then you go back, they could come and kill you. So I'm not playing with that nonsense. So I don't like it that Trump made this vaccine that I don't believe works and I don't believe should be forced. I don't like it that he did that. The only thing I'm hoping and praying that it was a sting, and that the reason he wrote all these people a blank check and took away all the regular checks and balances, even those that weren't enough, like to keep Pfizer from that fraud case where they lied about OxyContin, they said wasn't addictive, and then they had to pay billions of dollars because they lied. I mean, these people are career sociopathic liars and cheaters, and Trump gave them all a blank check. So they made this vaccine that's killing people. They don't have to answer for it. The 6 people from the government of New South Wales just resigned because they got caught taking bribes to push the lockdowns and the vaccines. You think that's only in New South Wales?
Probably not.
Right? Why do you think Como was so, take it back? These people are criminals. I don't know if you guys are protected from it in Texas because you were spared from mandates. But, around here, they're getting out of hand. They're firing nurses with 30 years dedicated experience because they don't want to take aborted baby cell vaccines in their bodies. Whatever happened to conscience?
Freedom of conscience?
Yeah, I mean, we're Catholic. So Catholics believe that when we receive communion, we're eating the body and blood of Christ in his divine nature. This vaccine is kind of like Luciferian Antichrist communion in the body and blood of aborted babies. Like they took a baby that was big enough to have kidneys, killed it, cultures its kidney cells, and that line is what called HEK-38 something, and that's the line. A lot of vaccines are made or tested using those. Then there was another one, the brain, the liver, the lungs. So these babies in their mother's wombs were big enough to have differentiated organs. The babies were killed. And then, Fauci, if you Google Fauci, University of Pittsburgh, harvesting kidneys, he funded research at the University of Pittsburgh where full-term babies were aborted and then their kidneys were harvested without anesthesia. He said if you deliver them breech and you leave the head in the mother's birth canal, then it doesn't count as murder. And if it slips out and accidentally breathes, oh well. He actually said that. And they took their kidneys out, and then part of the research is time how long it takes for these babies to bleed to death. They use the scientific word ischemia. May they go to hell with that scientific word. because Fauci murders babies in his work, and he shouldn't have a voice anywhere in our society. He should be in prison. So I didn't like it that Trump put him up front, except maybe he was running a sting and maybe he put him up front there, and it's our job to point out all these things so people hear about it. Did you know that about Fauci before I told you?
No, I didn't hear about that before.
Yeah, you can Google it. Go on DuckDuckGo, actually. Google suppresses it. Use the DuckDuckGo search engine. They're less under the control of whoever's trying to silence all that. And look up Fauci's experiments at the University of Pittsburgh with full-term babies having their kidneys cut out of their bodies and then timing how long it takes for them to bleed to death. He doesn't even give the babies anesthesia. So that would spoil the meat. I mean, I hate to have to talk about these things. I hate it that we've put blinders on and we allow these things to go on. And I hate it that someone that would do something that wicked is in charge of dictating medical advice I'm not going to listen to him. No way. You could drag me off in chains before I take that. Right? I would starve to death out on the street before I'd take that personally.
So you mentioned
a person like that. Anyway, we're long-lived because we speak the truth even when it sounds extreme. Do you have anything to add, Alan?
What she said. If you've got any questions, we're here to answer.
So you mentioned that your son was going to go to that Catholic college Assumption, but they mandated. How is the rest of the Catholic Church dealing with the vaccines?
Well, the Catholic Church has been infiltrated like every single other institution, and the Catholic Church gets fake news like every other institution. And Pope Francis has been doing a yeoman's job draining the swamp at the Vatican the same way I hope and pray still that President Trump was doing here. So here's an example. There's a Catholic saint named Saint Maximilian Kolbe. Saint Maximilian Kolbe was a Catholic priest who was taken to Auschwitz by the Nazis because he told the truth about how wicked they were. And while he was there, a prisoner escaped. And so what the Nazis would do if a prisoner escaped is they would pick 10 people and they would put them in a starvation cell as punishment. And that was supposed to put a guilt on the other people, don't escape or you'll be responsible for this happening to these other people. They'd put them in a starvation cell and then they'd watch them fight each other to death as they went crazy from thirst, starvation. And they picked 10 men, and one of the men started to cry and said, I have a wife and children, please let me live. And St. Maximilian Kolbe stepped forward out of the line and said, I'm a priest, I have no children, take me instead. And so they did, and they put him in the death box with the other 9 people, and he managed to keep them all calm and hear their confessions and help them die a holy death. And then he was the last one alive, and so the Nazis came with a fatal injection of carbolic acid, and he put his arm out to them and he accepted the injection. Pope Francis, in his remarks about the vaccine, said that it was ethical. He didn't use the word moral. He used the word ethical, which is situational. He said, it's ethical for me to take this vaccine the same way St. Maximilian Kolbe took that final injection, meaning he doesn't have children. If it makes you sterile, it's not going to matter to him. And if it causes all kinds of bad physical effects, people can see it happening in him, and hopefully, he prays, wake up before they give it to our children. Now, Pope Francis, since he's taken that vaccine, has had bowel surgery because he had bowel adhesions that are listed as one of the side effects of this vaccine. So he's already suffering in his flesh. Now, I'm waiting to see if the news is going to tell the truth about that. It's very hard to get the news to tell the truth. But like with all things, with the church and with, you have to be very careful to read what they exactly say and not go by what the news says they says. You cannot take it from anyone but the source itself. So, for example, there's fake news about the churches, different places, um, not letting people in without masks, this, that, the other. I'll tell you, we as a church stayed open the whole time, the whole pandemic. We did not close our doors. If anyone needed our services, asked for our services, baptisms, weddings, prayers for healing, we stayed open. The other churches that are more corporately manifest with certificates of occupancy and so on like that, they shut down for a little while, but once they have never once required anyone to wear a mask. Never once denied the sacraments to anyone. They're not going to mess around with this vaccine stuff. They've kind of bullied the bishop into saying, I got a vaccine and this and that. Poor man. But he's not a doctor, and so Catholics know you don't take medical advice from your bishop any more than you take spiritual advice from your doctor. Like one's, it's not their section. The bishop's not a doctor, so whatever he says about the vaccine is just a guy's opinion, and Catholics understand that line of demarcation. There's no chance that the churches are going to make people wear masks, and there's no chance that they're going to mandate vaccines. They've been keeping their heads down because even in America, our freedom is, like I said, we're the Catholic Church, and the police thought they could try and come and lie about us and take what we turn into the materials to confect our sacraments. They thought they were going to get away with that, and they didn't, but they tried.
What about the Catholic universities that are vaccine mandating, like the one your son declined the scholarship from?
Well, A, they're showing they're not really Catholic, they're Catholic in name only. And B, you have to look at where they're getting their money from. Because almost every university in this country right now is deeply beholden to China. China has donated so much money to so many universities and created these cultural institutes and funded so much research. And I hate to say this, but it's true. Americans are lazy, and we've been too willing to let Asia do our work for us, our math homework, write our software, develop our integrated circuits. Do you know, we didn't even have the ability when Trump became president. There was not even the ability in this country to make plasma TV screens. We couldn't, if we can't make things here, we become slaves in a way to the countries that were slaving for us because we get lazy and stupid. And I think that many universities are showing themselves like, this is what my son says now, and he's just turned 18, and he says, well, Mom, I learned that people that go to college these days are just stupid sheeple. And there's nothing I want to learn there. That's the awakening that's taking place. And I think whether a college was Catholic or has the name Catholic or hosts a Catholic, if they host a pro-abortion club, they're not Catholic anymore. There's Catholic schools that have done that. Notre Dame, for example, had Obama come speak there. They're not a Catholic school anymore. They're like Revelation says, they pretend to be Jews, but they belong to the synagogue of Satan. We got infiltrated. But because we have, we can always rederive from first principles what's right and wrong. And that's something that stands forever. So, just because something calls itself Catholic, we don't have a patent on the name. We don't own that name. There's a lot of people who use the name. It's like Montessori school. Anybody can use that name, even if they don't follow the method. So you just have to know. It says in the book that a remnant will be saved, and you got to hang on to that.
So when your church was doing the regular rituals and procedures during the lockdown, how did the authorities in your area react?
We made sure to invite them.
Yeah, we went out of our way to invite them. We even had a party to celebrate All Saints Day, I think it was, big enough that we had to rent a porta potty and we put it out front. It's just, but they ignored us as hard as they could. And because we had reached out early in a way that involved the police came out very early on in Rhode Island in the pandemic with a letter saying that they didn't consider mandates to be laws, and they thought their job was only to enforce laws, and they weren't going to have anything to do with enforcing what they called these unconstitutional and tyrannical mandates. And so fortunately, and I believe it was because of our dialogue with the police during the 2 times we engaged over the cannabis, they realized we were telling the truth, and it led them into looking more deeply into the other things we were saying. So we woke up the police here in Rhode Island, and also last summer we brought a loudspeaker and to the Antifa riots, and we broadcast Christian music, and it made all the Antifa people start hugging each other and then go home for milk and cookies. It was really funny. We have that on video.
We during most of anything that was like riotous or dangerous, either in Providence or near us, or even sometimes in DC, we as clergy felt a duty to go there and pray loudly with this loudspeaker and Christian music, syrupy Christian music, but also to waft calming cannabis smoke over the crowd, because our Bible says to do that. It's called the aroma soothing to the Lord. It was used by the biblical priest class in much the same way to end violence and sickness. So we developed quite a reputation among certain law enforcement agencies as sort of allies by attending these violent defund the police riots and calming the crowd down and making them give up and go home. And some of our video also carefully annotated in terms of minute and second, like timestamp within the video, serious felony conspiracies by some of the Antifa organizers, and identifying them, and sometimes using their own video to show that, and then we sent those to the state and local police and the FBI. So they've been very friendly with us ever since then.
Yeah, we actually Antifa live streamed a video in which they were talking to each other about calling Antifa to come in.
BLM had a video.
BLM put out a video where they were talking about, should we get Antifa to come in, they said, and then the other girl said, let's go to the park and practice these tactics so they could work next time. Like that was, they actually live streamed evidence of conspiracy.
But there was one defund the police rally where Reverend Ann was there with another colleague, Sister Iremedy, wafting cannabis smoke over the Antifa there. And the Antifa got upset and called the police, trying to get them to arrest us.
At a defund
the police rally. And the police looked at the Antifa people and sort of shook their heads in disbelief and said, I'm sorry, we're not funded to arrest Reverend Ann and take her away. We don't have the funding for that. And Antifa was, for some reason, the sort of mind control programming that the Antifa personnel are under gets disrupted very badly when they smell cannabis smoke. And I think it has something to do with, there was a CIA mind control program in the 60s that got declassified in the 70s called MK Ultra. And some of the sort of escapees and survivors of that, civilians that were unwittingly brought into this program and experimented on, said that cannabis broke the hypnotic programming, the split personalities, the memory gaps and things like that, and that the CIA tormentors that do this stuff know that cannabis disrupts it. So I'm thinking that therefore some of these Antifa must be under some kind of mind control, because consistently over and over again, we've traveled around the country, we've got videos of over and over again, the smell of cannabis smoke seems to disrupt the Antifa script or programming at one of these riot rallies.
I haven't heard that before, so that's definitely new stuff.
So for Christians, patriot groups, oath keepers, et cetera, across the country that want to protect people from Antifa, that's probably the most effective tactic we've seen if the police can't if the police are overwhelmed by crowd size or political restraints or something like that, the cannabis smoke really seems to disrupt them readily. And they know it too. You can see their organizers trying to sort of shush people away from it.
They actually brought this other smoke the next day, like red smoke. What was that?
Some kind of sulfur smoke bomb they brought, trying to just blot out the smell of
They
the
wanted to
cannabis.
blot out the cannabis because it was making their people all too nice. Anyway, that's politics in Rhode Island.
So are you planning to run for president or have any national candidates?
No. If anyone wants to organize a compassion party in their state, we will help them. And so if any of your listeners wish to get in touch with them, we will share knowledge. We will share memes. We will share graphic design skills. And if they come visit us at the church, we'll share that sweet smelling smoke. But we can't really organize and mount a campaign for president because you have to have a major machine in every single state getting all the signatures to get on the ballot. And so my plan is to get people to run for every single office in this state as Compassion Party candidates, embracing our philosophy, and so continue to be a local gadfly because their exaggerated response to us generally uncovers a lot of bad guys that get caught trying to go after us. And eventually they'll all either be out of the picture or converted to good, one or the other. They still have time. Right,
So
Alan?
I'm sorry, for those of our audience who are in the area of yours or who may be going by, where is the church located?
99 Hudson Pond Road, West Greenwich, Rhode Island, 02817. There's a big sign out front with the picture of Our Lady of Guadalupe, says the Healing Church, INRI, and there's another big sign that says First Amendment Sanctuary, free holy water, help yourself. You can't miss it. And also, if people want to reach out through Facebook or Twitter, Ann Armstrong RI, Avenging Annie is my handle on Twitter, at Avenging Annie RI. And then on Facebook, it's just Ann Armstrong. And if anyone wants to reach out from any state, we're happy to encourage and inspire people to run themselves and share our best practices and lessons learned. But Compassion Party's ideals of self-sustenance include kind of like do-it-yourself campaign, because that's really, nobody's going to run you. Nobody's going to, if you're looking to be handled and got like led around, you're not ready to be a leader. And most of the politicians get selected by a party machine, and they get a handler, and they get funders, and they're not their own people. They are not free to do what they think is right. They answer to a lot of other people. So Compassion Party is, in my opinion, those positions would be best served by people who go to God in prayer and then come back ready to implement those sorts of things here.
Yeah, no, you just asked us about our corridor here for people sort of in our region that might want to pop by, and I just want to let you know that you in Texas, all of Texas, are in a corridor that you're in our prayers constantly because of there's some serious and seriously tragic involuntary human trafficking and predation upon the vulnerable, with the border situation in Texas as a corridor for that generally. And Reverend Ann and I work very hard to stop human trafficking. We've uncovered and turned over to authorities 3 major child trafficking rings in the last 5 years, all of which were interstate, one of which was centered in Texas, one of which was international over into Europe, with nearly 1,000 perps busted and nearly 200 children rescued. You're in our prayers constantly, you and your entire community, and of course the victims of this horrendous trade. You can't be compassionate towards the unborn and towards cannabis users without also being compassionate to people who are involuntarily suffering.
Sure, that's very kind of you to think about our state.
Do you mostly reach people in Texas?
No, we reach all over because we have a lot of different parties from a lot of different states. So we did have the moderate party of Rhode Island speak on a podcast sometime back too. So we have people from many different states.
Did you have Billy Gilbert or did you have Bob Healy?
Mr. Gilbert.
Yeah, it's a shame because the moderate party is no more. It died. It had been eligible to be listed on the ballot, but Mr. Gilbert's candidacy in 2018 killed it because he didn't get enough percentage of the vote, or they didn't report that he got enough percentage of the vote. So now there's no more moderate party. There's just some people.
We consider him controlled opposition and that he was installed to end the moderate party.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Bob Healy really scared them. He got 38% of the vote.
Bob Healy, who founded the moderate party and ran for governor as an indie, got 38% of the vote and scared the crap out of them.
Well, he started the Cool Moose Party.
Yeah.
And then they made the moderate party. And he spent his whole campaign budget was $35 for his cell phone bill.
Oh my.
And he came so close to winning. Then they changed the rules. So because he was in the debates, and it was funny because he had this big beard. He looked like a gnome. He had this big, huge beard, big, long hair. And he was the only guy that made sense in the debates. So then when 2018, when I was eligible to be in the debates, they changed the rules. They said you had to have $100,000 in your campaign account. That was never a rule. They just didn't want to let me, go in the debates because they knew if they put me next to Gina,
the governor,
I would be all over. So the former governor of Rhode Island, the one that I ran against, is now Commerce Secretary. So
for the United States.
Right, for Biden. So it's basically her job to get all those container ships in and get the products on our shelves. So I just want to point out she's not really good at any job she's ever been at. Anyway,
so our audience can support your party, you mentioned, by going to your Facebook page and going to your Twitter handle, and also
Avenging Annie RI is my Twitter handle, and the Facebook page is Ann Armstrong for Governor of Rhode Island.
Okay.
Or you could just go to my regular Ann Armstrong. It's a picture of me with a pot leaf on my head. It's easy to find.
If you want to support us personally, just because you love us and we don't take money, you can do yourself a huge favor if you grow anything as crops or houseplants by getting some of that organic Squid Rhode Island fertilizer from Galilee Girls.
Yeah, GalileeGirls.com. GalileeGirls.com. Galilee Girls.
Free shipping.
Galilee Girls. Keep Rhode Island growing great. Yeah, you should get some of our fertilizer. It's organic, and you wouldn't believe the tomato harvest we had this year. The whole kitchen was full of tomatoes for a month. Works for cannabis. It works for peaches, watermelons, peaches, pears, roses, blueberries, everything. So if anybody wants to help us, they could just buy fertilizer.
Okay, that's so I want to make sure I got the address for the church right. Is it 999 Hudson Pond Road, West Greenwich?
29.
No, 99.
99.
99?
Yeah. 99
Okay.
Hudson Pond Road, West Greenwich, RI 02817.
All right. Sounds good. So if anybody's out there listening and you're in their area, you can swing on by there.
Yep, and pray with us. And buy some fertilizer, because we got it in the barn.
We have free holy water.
We have free holy water.
Out front.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
Excellent. So Ellen and Ann, thank you so much for coming on our podcast today. We appreciate you sharing your party's views.
You're very welcome, and thank you for the opportunity to do so. God bless you, and God bless America.
With that, that's a great way to close. So long live alternative parties, and all the best to you and your party.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.